Hello. Welcome to the hard reset. What just happened?
How much weight is behind a train. And it was a video of a guy that drove around the gates with a loaded triaxle dump truck of gravel. So you can imagine how heavy that is.
Why do people do that stuff? That's just nuts.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean,
well, yeah, I would think common sense, self-preservation, something would kick in at that point.
You'd be surprised.
Stupid crap like that.
So long story short, the video is, they have videos on trains, basically forward-facing videos on most of the new trains have them. I mean, there's not a whole lot in the inventory now that does not have basically a camera on the front of it. Mm-hmm. And so we can download those videos for the accident reconstruction and whatnot.
Right.
And so the video shows the semi come up, or it's a triaxle dump truck. It's like it's got three rear axles. It's loaded down with gravel. I don't know how many ton, 12, 15 tons or whatever of gravel that's on the back of this thing. He rolls up. You can see the train approaching. The gates are down and flashing. So this guy obviously knows the train's coming.
Right.
He slows up. He actually stops and then decides that there's enough space that he can drive around one gate and around the other one.
Oh, dear.
And let's just say a loaded triaxle dump. It's not a stock car. It's not a dragster.
It's
so
not
it takes some time just to even take off. Well, it hit him, but it hit that semi, or the guy, by the way, survived.
Oh, that's good.
Somehow survived.
You got lucky.
The train hit the truck going, at this point, I think they were only running like 43 miles an hour, because they actually have like a black box inside of them too that will tell you.
That's still pretty quick though.
Yeah, but it's running 43. They basically they put the emergency brakes on the train because they spot this guy starting to pull around. So it dropped it down from, say, 55. The train was going like 55, drops it down to like 43 by the time they impact the truck. It hits the truck and more or less almost splits it in half, but it literally throws the whole dump bed full of gravel off of the back of and it launches it like 200 feet out into the road.
Oh, geez.
So, and it manages to rip the cab off of the chassis, and it goes spinning what the guy's still in the driver's seat, and then eventually I think it throws him out the back window of whatever, the dump truck. Guy survives, thank goodness. But it just shows, even if you're in a semi that weighs, 15 tons,
right.
It has nothing, it's nothing on 1,000 ton train running 43 miles an hour.
Right.
It blew through him like it wasn't even there. So it amazes me that people on their little Chevy Chevette decides that, it's not that big of a deal to run around the thing. And what it does to one of those is crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's going to obliterate it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen tons of them, like probably well over 450 in the almost 14 years I've been doing this.
Huh.
So
that's just,
yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, that's between Ohio and Indiana. So, and I've seen that. And so, yeah, it's, I've watched them shear the front of cars off like at the firewall because people have pulled out they pulled out too far or whatever. Right. They got caught with the gate coming down and they've, got weirded out because the gate basically came down on the car. So they back up a little bit and then the train goes by and shears the front of the car off. And so they're sitting there,
got your nose.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the good one. That's the good sides. I've seen cars literally like drug down the tracks for like a mile because it takes forever for one of those things to stop, just due to the momentum, even with the brakes on.
Man, could you imagine being in a car? Let's say you got lucky enough to where you didn't actually die.
Yeah.
But you're shoved down railroad tracks for a mile.
I've seen it happen.
That would just be.
I've seen it happen.
Wow.
Luckily, a lot. I wouldn't say luckily, but most of the time it occurs at slow speeds. And most of the time it has to be the right conditions. Usually it's the crossing.
Sure lots of things.
The crossing, basically, when you get hit, I'm not recommending you to try this.
Well, if I ever go for it, I'm going
to. The ones that I have seen that have happened like that is the crossing is elevated. So in other words, they keep putting asphalt in the same crossing. So it kind of builds it up.
Right. Yeah.
And
like the crossings they're like really fun to launch your car over.
Yeah.
Because there's that big steep hump.
And it also has to be perfect timing that when you get hit in the driver's door or the passenger's door, you have to be directly with your tires on both sides of the tracks. In other words, they have to be on the outsides of the rail.
All right.
And it has to be going slow enough that it doesn't just wrap you around the giant cow plow on the front of it and end you that way.
Right.
But I literally just had one here within the last year that happened. And luckily the train was only going like 30 some miles an hour. And the lady driving was looking at the crew out of the driver's side and literally had to be checked out to make sure that, she didn't like have like a mild heart attack or whatever. Because apparently she was in bad shape or whatever, but she was not in bad shape. Like she was perfectly healthy, meaning like no injuries, maybe some bumps and bruises, but she was in good shape. It just kind of pushed her over into the passenger seat, when it hit the door or whatever. But the sheer shock of it happening, literally they thought she went into shock or whatever because of it happening. And they thought she was like having like a medical emergency after the fact. So,
I could only imagine. I mean, I've been in some weird situations where, man, you get that adrenaline pumping, which I'm sure she had.
Oh yeah.
In certain situations with adrenaline, obviously can be like a huge overload on your system.
Oh yeah. When we talked about in a previous podcast, I did all that, surviving the gunfight in the hallway in Iraq.